Welcome to Brainstoryum. I'm Anna Tizard, award-winning dreampunk and deeply weird fantasy author, and yes, that's me and my fiction that's deeply weird. Explore and imagine with me the most unexpected story ideas using the surrealist word game of Exquisite Corpse. Find out more and join in at annatizard.com. This is a storytelling challenge unlike anything you've tried before. Hello, imaginative people. I'm Anna Tizard, and this is episode 67 of Brainstoryum. Now, if you're still in the Halloween mood, I'll be sure to have some stories for you, as I'm still in a bit of a spooky mood myself. And, well, the Socks of Destiny seem to respond to moods. The writing prompts might be randomised, but there's often a little extra something that I suspect is going on. Serendipity? Or possibly just the power of the imagination, although we both know there's no just about that. Before we get started on the new story Brainstorms, I'll share with you my listeners' ideas on the crystalline zombie, which was the prompt from the last show. So there's a ghoulish flavour before we've even started. But before that, I have some very exciting news. My books are no longer the only books out there which contain stories inspired by Brainstoryum. Fraser Armitage, sci-fi writer and sometime contributor of Words to the Socks of Destiny, has a new collection of short stories coming out, which includes a story inspired by a writing prompt on this show. A Stitch Between Worlds is due for release on 15th of November 2024, but in the meantime is available for pre-order, which I have done, of course. I am very excited. To quote from the headline, "The differences between worlds, they're like two tapestries, one made of silk and the other of wool. But this door is a needle that sends me between them, and I'm what stitches them together." Skimming through the rest of the blurb, there's time travel, time manipulation, dinosaurs, alien invasions, dragons, astronauts, and more. You can find out more by going to fraserarmitage.com or just go to wherever you buy books online and type in Fraser Armitage or A Stitch Between Worlds. And so all those other authors or potential authors out there on the verge of giving it a try using Brainstoryum writing prompts, please do. I think I just need a couple more other authors to take the plunge and publish something before I can set up a page on my website with details and links to publications this show has inspired. And of course, I'd have to call it Brainstoryum Emporium. So get scribbling, people. I'd really like an excuse to set up that page. Right, so in the last show, I asked you what you thought the crystalline zombie would mean. Nikki Day of Brighton Telltales, the storytelling group, said, "How about a gemologist, or some sort of gem miner who's fallen victim to an ancient curse during the course of their work? As a result, their bodies developed both crystalline and zombie characteristics. They're in pursuit of both gems and human flesh." Brilliant combination. Fancy having two rabid desires to fulfill, not just brains, but gems as well. Lots of conflict there, which of course is the stuff of storytelling after all. Thank you for your idea, Nikki. Ev Days, artist and poet, said, "Two opposing wizards, Crystallax and Fleshmelt, arrive via a wormhole on Earth. They battle it out amongst humanity turning almost everyone into crystalline zombies in the process. Zyzerx, a fledgling cloud rider, rises up to unite them in peace. This feels like a big, juicy fantasy idea. Lots of world building and possibly world destruction too. Thank you, Ev. Moments in Time and Space, the host of that story podcast, said, "The thing pulled itself free from the wall of the cave. It looked like a ragged corpse wearing clothes from a long-lost era. The chants grew in volume and echoed through the cavern. Clusters of quartz embedded in the rotting flesh of the creature pulsed in time with the chants." Yikes! I'm always intrigued, though, when music or sound is combined somehow into a dramatic or magical effect, and this definitely does it. Thank you, Moments in Time and Space. Nick Vrakar, urban and contemporary fantasy author, wrote a short scene. Bill said, "That's a zombie." Jen said, "That's not a zombie." I'm telling you, that's a zombie. If he walks like a zombie, quacks like a zombie, retweets my ex's spicy tweets like a zombie, then that's as clear as crystalline zombie. No choice now but to shoot him in the head. Very snappy, action-adventure with a bit of humour and horror thrown in. You can't really go wrong. Thank you, Nick. Right, I think it's time to delve once more into the magical space of our imaginations and into the socks of destiny. That's right, and for those who haven't played before or listened before, or just can't remember, Exquisite Corpse creates a sentence by mixing different players' words and phrases into a line that goes describing word noun, action, describing word noun. And so I reach into the describing word sock first. And our first word is from Paul Thomas, poisonous. Okay, our next word, which will be a noun, is from Delta D, dragon, a poisonous dragon. Interesting, I've never thought of what else might be scary about a dragon besides their sheer size and the fact that they breathe fire. So our action is from Robin the Mail Lady, danced in the moonlight with. We have a dancing dragon. Who or what did it dance with? Our next describing word is from Mariah, moonlit. We have a repetition. That's quite rare. Lots of people thinking about the moon. Just gonna see what comes next. Last word is from Mariah again. Phantom. Ooh. Well, let's just look at the entire Exquisite Corpse. The poisonous dragon danced in the moonlight with the moonlit phantom. Lots of people thinking about the moon. I suppose that's going to happen this time of year. Still the residues of Halloween, perhaps. But of course, it's one of those times when initially I think, should I swap it? Swap the word out for something else? Who would know if I pressed the pause button and sneaked it into the sock again and grabbed something else? But then there are always ideas that come from true randomised exquisite corpses, and that's kind of the point of this whole exercise, is the challenge, whatever that challenge might turn out to be. And in fact, it's often been the way I've observed that the most difficult ones to crack have ended up inspiring me most or in the most surprising or intriguing ways. And I like that. It's part of the experience. Writing is difficult as well as fun and enormously satisfying. I think if I cheated and swapped words around, I would be forever haunted by what might have been. So I don't. But with this repetition of Moonlight and Moonlit, but I really like the Moonlit Phantom on its own. Actually, this could be a way into the story. Just because the moonlight is mentioned earlier in the sentence doesn't mean that it has to be used in exactly the same context or using the same reference to moonlight. A moonlit phantom in itself is a thing before we even consider why the phantom might be dancing with a dragon in the moonlight. How about a moonlit phantom is a type of phantom that becomes visible in the moonlight? This could be a phantom that usually shies from the moonlight for this very reason, or seeks it out to deliberately frighten people. Two very different character possibilities. But a phantom, the definition of phantom, can be a ghost or a thing that is a figment of the imagination. Say you might put the word phantom in front of a noun to suggest that it's not there. So if you, broke your laptop and wanted to go and write, you might say, I'm going to work on my phantom laptop now, while reaching for a pad of paper. But going back to this exquisite corpse, what if it is possible to see the dreams or thoughts of a dragon, but only in moonlight? And if you have a dragon that sleepwalks, well, that might be a reason why you'd come across a dragon that danced in the moonlight with the moonlit phantom. Up on the mountainside, where the crags bite the sky, and the caves yawn so deep and dark that it's rare for any rambler in the daytime to dare walk past them, let alone peek inside. The moon watches the silent peaks and waits. A dragon pads out of one of the caves onto a wide shelf of rock, its eyes locked in a trance at something unseen. A small hard thing like a tiny fallen star skitters from its paw and winks back the moonlight from many facets. For this dragon sleeps on a bed of rubies, emeralds, and diamonds. A deep growl rumbles from the creature's belly, uncertain. Its glazed eyes wander, the pupils widening. Its mind is nestled in sleep, yet here it is, shivering against the night air, or against some threat it senses. Clouds muffle the moonlight. We can only guess why the dragon begins to dance, hooking a claw at nothingness, jabbing, parrying, ducking away as if at a swipe. The clouds roll aside, black against the white, and the moon opens its eye. A phantom appears. A shiver of pearl clothes the man. On a horse? He waves a sword, charging. The dragon snuffles in confusion, padding backwards. Then the rider changes, morphing into a knuckle-fisted giant. Did you know the dreams of a dragon are visible in the moonlight? If you should ever come across a sleeping dragon, I'd recommend keeping quiet. But even as it sleepwalks, sleep fights, brace yourself for what you witness, for it dreams of everyone it has ever killed. An owl hoots from the forest down below. A fox screeches, calling for its mate. The dragon awakes, eyes wide and confused, looking for its quarry and finding nothing but moonlight. A gentle chuckle rumbles from its throat. Satisfied, secure in its loneliness, it creeps back to its cold, sharp bed of rubies, emeralds, and diamonds. I don't think I worked out how or why the dragon was poisonous, but at least we've got a moonlit phantom and a kind of dancing in the moonlight. And I do like moonlit phantom. I think that could be the word combination I invite you to brainstorm, but we'll see. Let's see what else comes up in the socks. Okay, so our first describing word is from Paul Benfield. Somber. We have someone rather serious here. And next word is also from Paul Benfield. Grandfather clock. Ooh, a somber grandfather clock. Let's try for an action. This is very, there's something fairy tale about this, I feel. From the actions, we have, this is from Sean at Blue Wizard Facts. Measured a dress for. Gosh, what's going on there? A grandfather clock that is also a kind of tailor or something. Next word is from Alessandro Bozzo. Abrasive. Someone or something is abrasive. This is from Wendy. Traitor. An abrasive traitor. Ooh. Well, I mean, abrasive can mean physically abrasive, rough or coarse to the touch. But in a person, you can have an abrasive personality that rubs people up the wrong way, saying hurtful things or being callous. Well, that's bad enough. But we have an abrasive traitor, someone who's betrayed their country or a cause, or possibly betrayed someone personally or a family. Let's just look at the whole Exquisite Corpse, because this is a weird one. The sombre grandfather clock measured a dress for the abrasive traitor. The sombre grandfather clock measured a dress for the abrasive traitor. Interesting, because grandfather clocks do measure something, time. Could they also measure clothes? And measured a dress surely means a tailor or someone who just likes sewing, measuring out a dress made for someone. For an abrasive traitor? Would this be some kind of special clothing that the traitor needs to enact his betrayal? A disguise? But in what way could a grandfather clock be involved in such a craft? The word measuring is still repeating on my mind. It's like a little pulsing, nagging light. I'm trying to find a connection between measuring time and measuring a dress. And it's a tenuous connection, making me think about mechanisms, secret mechanisms inside a grandfather clock. But they would have to be very small. And if a dress was being measured and made inside a grandfather clock, then this would also have to be done by very small, lightweight creatures. Like I said, there is a fairy tale quality when you just say grandfather clock to me, and I've got little mice running up and down the clock. Naturally, it has to happen at night. These are secretive beings with work to be done for a traitor. They must be made of dust. I always think it's a good sign when I accidentally rhyme, don't you? Behind the soft chip of the old grandfather clock, the sentry of the mansion's hallway, came a gentle whirring. The servants had always believed them to be the cogs and inner workings of the clock. But closeted in the inner chamber, behind the pendulum's swing, another mechanism was at work. A needle so tiny it might have been the incisor of a shrew, flashed up and down over a fabric wafer thin as a ghost skin. If you were to open the door of the grandfather clock and peer inside, you might not even see what it was that guided the gossamer under the needle. A creature made of dust. Fibrous clumps brushed from clothing, gathered to an almost shape, with a tangle of silver hairs that shuddered as it worked. The hour chimed. The thing stopped, listening. If it had eyelids, it would have closed them. Into the hallway drifted the ghost of the murderous cousin of the mistress of the house. The dust thing sensed rather than saw her, for the grandfather clock's cabinet door was still closed. Oh, but no. The ghost opened it, her wide, diaphanous eyes searching the interior for her servant and her new costume. The dress was almost ready. A tiny scuffle of unseen hands, and the full length of it released, draped down the back of the clock's chamber, just missing the swing of the pendulum. The ghost's giant-seeming eyes trailed the fabric with anticipation. It was the dress she'd been waiting for, an outfit woven from the particles of time. The knife waited in her hand, ready. She was a ghost that could move things, that still wanted things, that thirsted for blood. And this dress would make her truly invisible to her next victim. Well, that was creepy. Where does all this creepiness come from? Is it really just the season, or is this becoming a more permanent fixture in my brainstorms and my writing? Does it all come from me? Do I slowly cook up the creepiness in the week to unleash it here? Or does it come pressed between the words that my listeners send, like dried flowers between pages? Who knows? Let's see where the next Exquisite Corpse takes us. Maybe somewhere less creepy. I don't know. We'll have to see. Okay, our first word is from Wendy. Venomous. Ooh, we have more poison. What is going on here? See, our next word is from Paul Thomas. Urn. U-R-N. A venomous urn. That's kind of creepy. We don't necessarily have to be creepy, but we'll see. So the action is from Alessandro Bozzo. Waited patiently in the rain for. Why would an urn, a venomous urn, wait patiently in the rain? Who, what, or what for? Our next word is from Rebecca Glazner. Unruffled. Ooh, that's an interesting adjective. So our final noun is from Paul Thomas again. Pentagram. So that's a symbol. It can actually, I looked this up and scribbled notes around the edge of the piece of paper, as I often do, when I'm a bit unsure if I think something might mean more than one thing. And this is a pentagram. Is obviously it's a star sign, but it's a symbol of protection or perfection, sometimes a sign for the devil, sometimes the sign for humanity, and apparently it was also an early Christian symbol for the 5 senses, which I did not know until I looked it up. So the entire Exquisite Corpse here is the venomous urn waited patiently in the rain for the unruffled pentagram. Oh, that's a really weird one. A lot of different things going on here. And interesting, like I say, it's interesting that poison has come up again, although the word venomous usually denotes an animal or a plant that is poisonous, rather than just a substance. Something that bites or stings. An urn with a tail coiled behind it. And an unruffled pentagram. Could that mean a sheet or a cloak or some other covering with the symbol on it, which is unruffled, has no creases in it? And if this venomous urn waits patiently in the rain for the wearer of a cloak that has a pentagram on it, something like that, is the urn waiting to strike, or is it waiting for its accomplice in something? Is the rain just a backdrop to this scene, or is there some special significance about this weather? There are so many pieces to think about. I wonder how they'll come together, how I can forge connections between them. Maybe the only way to find out is to press the pause button and just write. The shop sold t-shirts with dragon prints, ornate lamps, tarot cards, joss sticks, fancy dress masks, but not the horrible cardboard things that you got in newsagents. No, he had the real things. The shopkeeper swept through the morning with a feather duster, beaming at his mini emporium. On a day like today, with the rain hammering down, there wouldn't be many customers, but it was still good to be here, to own his own business, surrounded by his humble riches. The door jangled open. A tall figure in a long indigo cloak swooped into the shop. A pentagram brooch studded his chest, the light sliding over it jealously. "Hello, sir. Wow, what a fantastic costume," said the shopkeeper. "I hope you don't mind me asking, but where did you get—" The man's hand swung up in a gesture for silence. The movement was so sudden that the shopkeeper staggered back, almost cowered. The mysterious man spoke in almost a whisper. "Where is it?" "What is it you're looking for, sir? You'll see I have a wide range of—" "Don't play games with me." The gloved hand struck again, but this time closed around the shopkeeper's throat. "Hey, what do you want?" the shopkeeper stammered. The flash of shock and anger in his eyes quailed into terror. Who was this bizarre and violent stranger? "You have a thing of power stored somewhere in this shop. I sense its presence." The stranger flexed his nostrils and, turning his head, began to scour the rack of t-shirts hanging along the opposite wall. He dropped his grip and stalked over to them, ignoring the coughing, spluttering shopkeeper behind him, as if he didn't exist. "You have a thing of power," the stranger said again, striding in time to his words, "yet you hide it behind this emporium of tat." "Hey!" cried the shopkeeper feebly, still rubbing his throat. The stranger's cloak swung unruffled as he nosed around displays, pulled aside t-shirts, picked up and dropped the candle holders, books and other little talismans spread over the tables, always wrinkling his nose in disgust, or sensing something else. something special that he alone could sense. Could it be that it's been planted here without the shopkeeper's knowing? The man muttered to himself. Grunting in frustration, he swung round and strode out the front door, but to the shopkeeper's consternation halted just outside, leaving the door wide open, apparently just pausing for some fresh air. Rain danced against the pavement. With the stranger's back turned, the shopkeeper's shoulders sagged, and he stared mournfully at the dirty specks of water spattering his nice wooden floor, not to mention the muddy footprints. If this weirdo, this fiend, was going to get out of his shop, then he should get out completely. Close the door and give him a chance to mop up. He was just building up to saying this, calculating how quickly he could ring the police if things turned nasty again, when the man, without even turning, threw out his hand to the side and shouted, "Get me a cup of tea. I need to think." The shopkeeper gawped in outrage, huffed, then shuffled off to the cramped kitchen in the back, clattering around so that His Highness would know he was getting on with it. Maybe if this haughty guy might actually buy something, the effort might pay off. No one would ever dare say this shopkeeper was a poor host. That's when it happened. So quickly, there was no way the shopkeeper could have seen it. The cloaked stranger stood in the doorway, surveying the street, a small sneer gathering on his upper lip. How many worlds did he have to go through to collect these vitalities? How many imbeciles cowered in shops, museums, art galleries, with apparently no idea of who he was and what was hidden under their own roofs? There had to be more at work here. Someone powerful and cunning was planting the precious objects of power under the noses of the unsuspecting. These feeble, ridiculous humans, for instance. The sneer began to creep up again. He sniffed, meaning only to sample the rainy air of this realm, but froze in sudden understanding. It was somewhere just outside the shop. On his right, a small rickety table with a welcome sign perched on it, with an arrow pointing to the door. Next to it, lined up against the window, was a small range of wicker baskets. On his left, a tall, plain-looking urn that might have just chuckled. Stricken by wonder, or possibly fear, he took a delicate step closer and sniffed. From the back of the urn slithered a snake-like tail. It rose up, rattling, as if to face off the widening eyes of the stranger. The snake's head shot out from the other side, levelling up, ready to strike, while the man stared dumbly at the rattling tail. A hiss and a slash of movement, and the man teetered on his legs, now stroking his neck with a wince. His body never hit the ground. The lid of the urn slid aside, and with a deep grumbling, lip-smacking sound, the man was vacuumed into the container. The lid replaced itself with a small clatter, and all was still. The shopkeeper trundled back in, his tea things tinkling on a battered wooden tray. He stopped, looked around, and gave a sigh of relief. Setting down the tray on the counter, he stirred the pot with a smile on his face, tapping the spoon against the side before he poured fresh tea into the cup. Watching the rain bouncing off the pavement, he sighed and took a sip of his tea, then strolled towards the door. Standing under the eaves of the shop, he gave the urn a gentle pat. "Nice lunch." And that's how the venomous urn waited patiently in the rain for the unruffled pentagram. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Though maybe in some ways the grandfather clock story was just so weird that that's the one lingering on my mind. Anyway, I think After dust creatures sewing dresses for evil ghosts, and sleepwalking dragons dancing on mountainsides in the moonlight, and of course, rattlesnake urns guzzling the occasional traveller, I still feel that the moonlit phantom is the winning word combination of the day. So thank goodness I didn't swap out the words for their moon-themed repetitions to try and find something a bit different. So if you can think of a story idea based on the moonlit phantom, and if you'd like a shout out on the show, it's always a bit of fun, please drop me a line at annatizard.com. You'll find the contact button at the bottom of any page. And if you'd like me to continue being spooky in these tales, or perhaps be a little less spooky, or to maintain a sort of balance in future, let me know. Do you like the spooky stuff? Do you want more of it? I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what you think. Just hit that contact button on my webpage and let me know. So if you do like the spooky stuff, by the way, and if you're new to the show, make sure you check out the last 2 shows, episodes 65 and 66, because they do get pretty creepy. Funnily enough, the one before the Halloween show, number 65, was possibly more profoundly creepy than the Halloween show itself. Oh well, that's just the way things work. It's all random. Until next time, go forth and be inspired. I hope you enjoyed today's Brainstoryum. You can find out more about Exquisite Corpse and my series, The Book of Exquisite Corpse, at annatizard.com. Subscribe to my e-newsletter and you'll get volume 1 for free. And while you're there, why not submit a few words to the Socks of Destiny on my play page? You may inspire me or inspire yourself to write a unique new story. See you next time.